prices don't usually shift in a way that grabs attention right away. They move quietly first. A shipment arrives a little later than expected. A supplier adjusts delivery schedules. A product that was always there suddenly shows up in smaller quantities. And at first, it doesn't feel like a problem. It feels like a small inconvenience, something temporary, something that will correct itself. You walk into a store and everything still looks mostly normal. The shelves are stocked, the options are still there. Maybe a few familiar brands are missing. Maybe prices are slightly higher than you remember. But nothing feels urgent. Nothing feels like a warning. In the first few days, most households don't react. There's no reason to. The system still appears intact. Deliveries are still happening. Availability is still there. It feels stable. But by the third week, the picture begins to change. The same shelves are still there, but they don't refill the same way. Certain products become inconsistent. Items you expect to see every time are suddenly missing more often. Not gone completely, just unreliable. And that's when something shifts, not in the system itself, but in how people begin to notice it. Because the real problem isn't what disappears overnight, it's what slowly becomes harder to replace. We've seen this pattern repeat before. During inflation cycles, during supply disruptions, during periods where transport slowed down or costs increased, the system rarely breaks all at once. It tightens, and when it tightens, certain weaknesses begin to show first. The households that stay calm plan differently. Most households prepare for comfort, not duration. That difference is subtle, but it changes everything. Preparing for comfort means keeping things that make life easier right now. Preparing for duration means thinking about what continues to work when systems become less reliable. And most people don't think that way until they're forced to. Waiting feels safe because nothing looks urgent. There's no visible shortage, no empty shelves across the board, just small signals, easy to ignore, easy to dismiss. And that's exactly why most people wait too long. There's a phase that comes before obvious problems, a phase where everything still looks fine on the surface, but the underlying pressure is already building. This is the quiet phase, and it's the phase where the biggest advantage exists. Smart households don't wait for urgency. They act during this quiet phase. Not because they expect the worst, but because they understand the pattern. By the time something becomes obvious, prices have already moved. Availability has already shifted. Behavior has already changed. Think about how people respond once they notice something is off. They buy more. Not out of panic at first, but out of awareness. That increase in demand meets already rising costs. And that's when movement accelerates. What felt stable suddenly starts to change faster. So the real advantage isn't reacting quickly, it's positioning early. Most people think in terms of short-term needs. What do I need this week? What am I running low on right now? But preparation for duration asks a different question. What continues to work if the system becomes inconsistent? What remains usable without constant replacement? That shift in thinking leads to a deeper understanding of how food systems actually work. Because food doesn't disappear randomly. It follows structure. It follows dependency. It follows how it is produced, processed, and delivered. Every product on a shelf represents a chain of steps: farming, processing, packaging, transport, distribution, retail. And every step adds another layer of dependency. The more steps a food requires to reach you, the more vulnerable it becomes when the system tightens. A simple food with minimal processing has fewer points of failure. A heavily processed product relies on multiple systems working perfectly. And when pressure builds, those systems don't fail all at once. They weaken slowly, unevenly. And that uneven pressure is what creates inconsistency. That's the key insight. The more steps a food requires, the more vulnerable it becomes. Once you see that pattern, your approach changes. You stop focusing only on what looks convenient or familiar. You start focusing on what remains stable, what continues to work even when conditions change. So what makes a food truly reliable over time? It comes down to a few core principles: stability, usability, independence, and resilience. Stability means the food can last without degrading quickly, not just in theory, but in real storage conditions. Usability means it can actually be prepared and eaten without complicated steps. Independence means it doesn't rely heavily on refrigeration or constant supply. And resilience means it isn't tied to fragile supply chains. When those factors come together, certain foods stand out. Not because they are trendy, not because they are popular, but because they continue to provide value when everything else becomes less predictable. Based on that framework, these are 12 foods that continue to hold value when everything else becomes uncertain. White rice is one of the most reliable staples you can store. It lasts for years when kept dry and sealed properly. It provides consistent calories and works across many types of meals. People ignore it because it seems too basic. But that simplicity is exactly what makes it dependable. It solves the problem of long-term calorie stability when other options become inconsistent. Rolled oats offer both nutrition and flexibility. They cook relatively quickly and provide energy that lasts. They can be used for breakfast, baking, or even savory meals. Many overlook them because they are associated with routine, not resilience. But they solve the problem of having a versatile, easy-to-prepare food that supports daily use. Cornmeal is another overlooked foundation. It stores well and can be used to create multiple types of food: bread, porridge, simple meals that don't require complex ingredients. It solves the problem of turning a basic grain into usable meals without relying on constant supply. Dried black beans provide a strong source of protein and fiber. They last for years and become more valuable as fresh protein becomes less available. People ignore them because they take time to prepare. But that trade-off becomes less important when stability matters. They solve the problem of maintaining protein access over long periods. Red lentils offer a similar benefit, yet but with greater efficiency. They cook faster and require less fuel. That makes them practical when resources are limited. They solve the problem of balancing nutrition with energy efficiency. Canned sardines may not be everyone's first choice, but they provide dense nutrition in a compact form. They require no preparation and last for extended periods. They solve the problem of immediate, reliable protein without dependence on cooking. Honey is one of the few foods that can last indefinitely. It doesn't spoil under normal conditions. It provides energy and can be used in multiple ways. People overlook it because it feels optional. But it solves the problem of long-term energy and food preservation support. Salt is essential, not just for flavor, but for maintaining the usability of other foods. It lasts indefinitely and plays a role in preservation. It solves the problem of keeping food functional over time. Sugar works in a similar way. It provides energy and supports preservation. It is often taken for granted, But its role becomes clear when systems become less predictable. It solves the problem of maintaining energy and extending food usability. Powdered milk provides access to nutrients that are otherwise dependent on refrigeration. It lasts much longer than fresh dairy and fills a specific gap. It solves the problem of maintaining balanced nutrition without relying on constant supply. Peanut butter combines protein and fat in a single, easy-to-use food. It stores well and requires no preparation. It solves the problem of quick, dense nutrition when time or resources are limited. Instant mashed potatoes may seem simple, but they provide quick, reliable calories with minimal effort. They store well and require very little preparation. They solve the problem of fast, filling meals when cooking becomes less convenient. These 12 foods share the same core strengths. They are stable, they are usable, they are independent, and they remain valuable when systems become less reliable. That's why they outlast everything else. Foods that require less processing have fewer dependencies. Fewer dependencies mean fewer points of failure, and fewer points of failure mean greater stability. These foods can be combined, adapted, and used in different ways. That flexibility becomes more important over time, because over time, variety decreases. The first few weeks of disruption feel uncertain. By the second month, patterns begin to form. By the third month, those patterns feel normal. Fewer options, less variety, more reliance on what is available rather than what is preferred. And this is where preparation begins to show its value. Not in reacting faster, but in already being positioned. But even with the right foods, there is a mistake that undermines everything. Most people focus on what to buy, but ignore how it fits into daily life. They choose foods based on trends rather than practicality. They store items they don't regularly use. They create systems that are complicated instead of sustainable. And over time, that leads to waste, because preparation is not just about storage. It is about integration. The food you store should be food you use. The system you build should be one you can maintain. Otherwise, it breaks down long before it's needed. Cost also needs to be understood differently. It's not just about price, it's about value. Cost per calorie matters. Cost per use matters. Cost per reliability matters. A food that costs slightly more but lasts longer and serves multiple purposes is often the better choice. Fuel efficiency becomes part of this as well. Foods that require less time and energy to prepare become more valuable when resources are limited. And balance is essential. No single food solves everything. A combination creates stability. Storage is where most plans fail. Heat, moisture, and air exposure reduce shelf life. Poor containers allow pests. Lack of rotation leads to spoilage. Having the right food is only part of the solution. Keeping it usable is what makes it effective. Conditions vary depending on location. In warmer climates, heat and humidity accelerate degradation. In colder climates, storage may be easier, but access can become more limited. Urban households depend more on frequent supply. Rural households may have more storage space, but fewer replacement options. Over time, the situation stabilizes, but at a lower level. Week 3 feels uncertain. By month 2, prices begin to settle at higher levels. By month 4, those levels feel normal. The system adjusts, but not back to where it started. This is where the advantage becomes clear. When you've already prepared, the experience is different. There is less urgency, less pressure, more control. You are not reacting to change. You are operating within it. Preparation is not panic. It is positioning. It changes how you think, how you respond, how you make decisions. Instead of reacting, you observe. Instead of rushing, you adjust. That creates clarity. Before we close, take a moment to think about your own situation. Which of these foods do you already keep stocked? That answer often reveals more than you expect. It shows where your system is strong and where it still depends on constant supply. Preparation is not about reacting faster. It's about acting earlier. And when systems begin to shift, the households that planned ahead don't just manage better. They stay steady. Preparation removes uncertainty.